Looks like we have about 40 students here so far, which is very good.
Yeah.
Hello, Dongha. Good to see you. Sure, I think we're ready to begin. Brian, do you want to introduce today's session?
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much. I will speak in Korean language. Are you okay?
Sure.
Okay. 네, 안녕하세요. 저희 AMO 프로그램에 대한 한국 시장에서 독점적으로 프로그램을 제공하고 있는 메디컨설팅입니다. 저희 메디컨설팅은 저희 10년 넘게 미국 의사를 배출하기 위해서 저희 고등학생 및 한국 의대를 포함한 다양한 국제의대 재학생 및 졸업생 분들에 대해서 GPA와 MCAT 컨설팅을 해오고 있고요. 또한 미국으로 이민을 예정하시는 의사분들을 위해서 투자 이민 컨설팅도 같이 진행을 해오고 있습니다. 오늘 세미나는 특히나 이제 미국 실습병원을 찾으시거나 아니면 LOR 같은 거를 받으실 때 많은 도움이 분명히 되실 거고요. 실제로 저희가 이 DB를 많이 확인해 보니까 저희 한국의 의사분들과 그리고 해외 의대생 분들이 굉장히 많이 이용하는 거를 저도 직접 확인을 할 수 있었습니다. 그래서 모쪼록 좋은 정보를 많이 얻어 가시고요. 이후에도 궁금하신 사항이 있으시면 메디컨설팅으로 연락을 주시면 좋겠습니다. 그리고 저희가 4월부터는 그 미국에 계신 그 한국인 전문의 분들과 그룹 세미나를 정기적으로 이제 유료로 예정을 하고 있어서 이 부분도 저희가 곧 안내를 해 드릴 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 네, 그러면 오스틴, it's your time. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I realized I'm not recording, so let me go ahead and record this and then I'll share.
Recording in progress.
Perfect. So to those of you who are watching the recording, thank you so much. My name is Austin Patton Bustos, and I am the International Partnership Manager at AM Opportunities. AMO, or AM Opportunities, stands for American Medical Opportunities. We are partnered directly with Brian here at Mediconsulting to help Korean medical students like you understand how you can gain experience in US hospitals or US universities for kind of like internship training. So what I'm going to be talking about today is, what are these trainings? How are they available to you? What are the different types? What are the requirements? We'll talk about how you can apply all the questions that you have. You can feel free to stop me and ask questions. I'm happy to help. This is your time, and I want to make it useful for you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a teacher. I'm just a regular person who's here to help you along this path because I've helped hundreds, if not thousands of students, especially from Korea, to come to the USA and do their medical trainings. So with that said, let's begin. Like I said, AMO stands for American Medical Opportunities. We are an online platform where we, collect hospitals and universities and clinics all into one site where you can scroll through them, very much like Airbnb or like Uber Eats, where you can scroll through and see what's available to you, and you can select which clinical training is best for you. We've been around for more than 10 years. We have hundreds of partnerships in the USA and internationally for students to access these trainings. So I'll show you a little bit more about what the platform is like after the presentation. It should take maybe 20 minutes, and then we can actually explore the platform together and answer your questions. But before we do that, I want to start very basically. When I say a clinical training or clinical experience, what do I mean? Because here in the United States, typically we say clinical rotation. In the UK, sometimes they say clinical attachment. Some people call them clinical externship or clerkship. They kind of all mean the same thing. It just means clinical training of some sort. So I'm going to, say the word clinical experience a lot throughout this presentation, just to kind of capture all of those words in one. But before we really talk about the different ones that are available to you, you need to know that there are different types of clinical experiences available to you. And so the first type that you should know about is hands-on training versus observership training. And it's exactly like how it sounds. Hands-on training is mostly for current medical students. So if you're a current medical student, you will want to get hands-on training where you can actually do procedures on patients. You can, touch them, you can talk to them directly. But if you're a graduate here in the United States, graduates can only do observership training, meaning you will be in the same room with the doctor and with the patients, but you'll mostly be observing, taking notes, asking questions. You can take patient histories. You can learn their administrative systems for their clinic or for the hospital. So there's a lot of value in still getting these observership trainings. But, very basically, hands-on is for students and observership is for graduates. And there's also different types of specialties that you need to be aware of. So we do have plenty of options for core specialties. These are, medical specialties that are pretty much required by almost every university around the world. There's medical specialties that you should have at least some basic level of knowledge in order to become a practicing doctor. These are specialties like surgery, internal medicine, family medicine. Basically, every doctor needs to know at least a little bit about these specialties. But if you want to be, a very specialized doctor in a niche specialty, we do still have lots of options for you. We have more than 70 different medical specialties. And these elective specialties are kind of where you can explore and branch out and try new specialties, try new things. So if you are a student who is maybe you're a fourth year student, you're just now trying to do your clinical rotations, you maybe haven't decided which specialty is good for you yet. If that's you, I really recommend do many different types of elective specialties. Try, one in radiology, one in urology, one in cardiology, just so that you can try these different things and see what you like best. If you're a student who, for example, you love pediatrics already, and you want to do pediatrics, in that case, I recommend you do as many pediatric rotations as possible so that when it's time to go to residency, you can kind of prove to the residency director that you love pediatrics, you have all this pediatric experience. That would be very helpful on your resume. But if that's not you, I really recommend trying at least 3 or 4 elective specialties to try new things, see what's right for you. For example, if you're a radiologist, I know here in the USA, many radiologists are able to work from home. They can work virtually. They have very good work-life balance. But that's very different from, maybe a neurosurgeon who goes in every day and is in high-pressure situations. I think they're very different, practices of medicine. So if you're a student who's on the fence, cannot decide which is best for you, I recommend trying these different things before you actually commit to a specific residency. Lastly, we also do offer virtual rotations at AMO. These were brought in, of course, during the pandemic. They were a very new thing. But since then, they've gotten actually very, very good, and they've expanded. And so now I think there's about 40 universities that we work with who directly place their students into virtual training and give them university credit as if it was in person. Especially schools in the USA, telemedicine and telehealth is now becoming very common. In fact, if I'm doing a primary care visit, I don't need a surgery, I'm just talking to a doctor, it's almost always virtual. So there's plenty of options to do virtual trainings from Korea, and there's lots of benefit to that. You can still talk to patients, still learn American healthcare system, still get the letter of recommendation, but you don't need to fly, you don't need to get visa. immunizations. There's lots of benefits to doing virtual. So if that's something you're thinking about, I would really recommend it. And so now that we've talked about the different types of experiences, I think it's good to talk about the benefits of these experiences. And, I don't want to talk about every single one of these. I trust you can read the slide. You're all medical students, you're good readers. But I do want to highlight just a few, especially the letter of recommendation is probably the most important thing that you're going to get out of these clinical experiences. Because now, as many of you know, USMLE Step 1 is now pass-fail. And so what does that mean for students like you who will be taking this test? It means that you have less opportunity to prove to residency directors through your grades that you're a smart and hardworking student. Basically, every application that a residency director will see will say USMLE Step 1, pass. And then they will see Step 2 and 3, very good scores almost always. So what does the residency director do then? They look at your letters of recommendation. They see what other doctors have to say about you and your work ethic and your basic intelligence level in their field of medicine. So it's really important if you're applying to residency, especially residency in the USA, you need to have probably 3 or 4 really good letters of recommendation. Otherwise, the residency director may not consider your application in order to gain access to their residency program. Another good benefit that you'll get is just practicing medical English. Even myself, a native American English speaker, I have problems understanding medical English a lot of the time because medical English is so much more difficult and more specific than just regular English. So if you want to become a practicing doctor, again, in the United States or in Korea, I think it's a very important skill to understand at least a basic level of medical English. And having this real world practice in a real world setting will help you gain just that. And it will even help you gain higher USMLE scores. Because if you think about it, the USMLE is just a medical language exam, right? So if you're taking the USMLE before the clinical rotation, you're kind of doing it backwards, right? It's kind of like taking the test and then practicing. I really recommend you do the rotation, you do the clinical experience, you practice your medical English, and then you take the USMLE test to test your skills that you've gained. And I think lots of students have a misconception and they do it backwards. But really, it doesn't make sense that way. You need to practice and then test. And lastly, I think it's important to know that you'll just be expanding your network. You'll be working with doctors from the United States. You'll be working with students from around every country. In fact, it's not on the slide, but in the USA, 1 in every 3 doctors is international, comes from a different country. So you'll probably meet doctors from Korea, doctors from all over Asia, all over Europe, Latin America. So it's really good to expand your global network if you're going to be working with international doctors every day. Right, so here's the letters of recommendation. I really cannot stress enough how important these letters of recommendation are. And I want you to know that all of the doctors we work with, we tell them, you're a medical student, you're likely hoping to get into residency, or maybe if you're a doctor, you're likely hoping to, do some sort of career switch in your life. So we really tell our doctors to write personalized letters of recommendation that, we tell them take time on your letter of recommendation. It's really important, and that's why the student is here. I do see a question in chat. Someone said, I heard that some programs require step 1 or step 2 scores before application. Was I misinformed? No, you weren't misinformed. There are some programs that require step 1 before applying, but that's only about 1% of the programs. 99% of programs do not have this requirement. And that requirement is likely set exactly from the doctor, not from the platform. So a program that does have this requirement basically means the doctor there believes that you must know very complicated medical English before coming to this program. So it's kind of like a safety barrier. But 99% of programs do not have this requirement. You can apply directly, and then whenever you get back, you can take the USMLE. That's a very good question. There's another good question. Someone says, is hands-on training the same as clerkships? I saw some program called hands-on and some observerships. Yeah, so we kind of covered it already, but a clerkship is just a general term meaning all types of clinical training. But hands-on and observerships are two different types of clinical training. Both of them are clerkships. Hands-on training in the United States is for students, current medical students, and observerships is for current medical graduates. Good questions. And I like these questions. If you have more questions, please put them in the chat so I can answer them. And so, like I said, those are just different types of clinical trainings and the benefits of clinical trainings. But AMO is a very specific company that helps you get these clinical trainings and helps you with everything surrounding the clinical trainings. So the first way that we help you is just like the link in the chat. Let me put again one more time, just in case you joined late. Here is the link in the chat to the platform. So when you click that link, you'll be able to go onto the platform. You'll be able to see all of the hospitals and clinics that are available to you, and you'll be able to apply directly. And so this direct application process is, I think it's very new. You shouldn't take it for granted. You know, imagine you're a doctor 10, 15 years ago, and you're required to get this training. What will you do? There's no internet. You cannot look it up online. So you need to get the phone book. You'll need to call a bunch of hospitals. Hopefully they answer. If they answer, you have to beg them, please accept me into your clerkship program. Lots of them don't even have clerkship programs. And if they do, maybe they're full. So you need to keep calling and calling. It doesn't really work like that anymore. Because AMO has this platform, we did all that work for you. We connect with the hospital. We learn their requirements. We put it all online so you can apply within, 4 or 5 clicks. So it's very convenient for you. And we also offer support. So this next bubble, the one-on-one world-class support, I have a few more slides to talk about it, more specifically. But we're not only the platform, but also we have a whole student services section of our company that comes along free with the platform, meaning we can help with visa, flights, housing, food, transportation, give you coaching, all of that. So we're not just a platform. We won't just send you to some hospital and not check up on you. We really want to make sure that we're there with you before, during, and after your rotation. Make sure it's a positive experience for you and make sure that you know someone in America, because it can be very scary if you come to America, maybe you don't have family here. It's going to be very important that you know some people that you trust and you can call them always. So we're there for you for that. And then lastly, AM Opportunities really helps you stand out in your residency match and get to that next step of your career. I see another question in chat. Oh, someone just says that's cool. Yes, that it is cool. Thank you, Doha. I'm happy you're here. So more about our one-on-one world-class support. Really, that just means we have a team of advisors who are on call always for you. So you can reach them through WhatsApp, reach them through email, reach them. Even some of them have KakaoTalk. So if you use KakaoTalk, or maybe Line, or maybe if for some of you have WeChat, we can use all of these platforms to talk to you, answer questions. Maybe you don't know if this rotation is right for you. Maybe you don't know if, you want to do cardiology. Maybe you don't know if you want to go to a big hospital or a small hospital. our advisors can answer all of those questions and make sure that you have all of the right information for free before you apply to make sure that you are successful in your medical journey. And then once you have actually reserved a clinical rotation, so you'll talk to the advisors before you reserve a clinical rotation, and then they'll help you and make sure that you have all of the right information. Once you actually reserved, you'll be transferred from the advisor team to the visitor experience team, which basically they're our AMO coaches. They're one-on-one student coaches who are there to collect your documents. They'll help you with the logistics, like the flight and the housing, make sure that you understand everything. They'll introduce you to the doctor. So before you even show up on the first day, they'll have a Zoom call with you, make sure that you understand everything you're about to do, make sure that you're 100% positive this is going to be a good experience, and they'll introduce you to the doctor so that you know who you're working with. I do see some more questions. Let's see. What's for a second-year medical student? Second-year medical students can participate in any clinical rotation. Because you're a medical student, you can participate in hands-on or observerships. Typically, I recommend for a student to participate in hands-on. Someone else asks, how late can I apply for the program? I searched several hands-on and all are available schedules in June. Yes, so typically I recommend to apply with at least 3 months so that you can, for example, if you don't have a visa or maybe you don't have your immunizations ready, you want to have time to collect those documents. You need time to buy a flight, need time to find accommodation. So I recommend you give yourself that time. With that said, AMO can move very quickly. The fastest we've moved is we gotten a student from China to America starting their program within just 3 days. So we can move very fast, but we do not recommend that. We recommend you give yourself maybe 3 months so that you have time to plan everything you need to plan. Good question. What clinical rotations would you recommend for second year without the steps? Let's get into that question after the presentation. I'll show you a bit more about the platform and the actual programs themselves, and I think that's a much better time for you to see what we're talking about. And someone said, how long do you recommend for total clerkship period? Well, our clerkships are typically always in 4-week blocks, so that's 1 month. So I recommend, if you're a medical student, you're probably going to need to do at least 3 or 4 months of training just to graduate. If you want to come practice medicine in the USA, maybe even 5 or 6, just because it's so competitive to become a doctor. I'm not sure exactly what the Korean standard is, but I'm pretty sure it's at least around 3 months of training. Our blocks are 1 month block each, so that would mean you would need to reserve 3 different clerkships in order to graduate and get the credit that you need. Good questions. All really, really good questions. I love seeing them. And then these are some of the documents that you might need to turn in. I've kind of talked about a few of them. They're not all always required, but the main important ones are like your passport if you need to come to the USA, your resume almost always. If you're doing hands-on clerkship, you'll need to do malpractice insurance, which is just an extra small fee, but AMO can handle all the logistics and do that for you. So I like to keep this slide so you can see the different documents that might be required. And so AMO really helps you stand out in the match. I don't really need to explain the graph in too much detail because I think you're all medical students, you're all smart, you can read a graph. But you can see this orange line here. That's the percent of AMO students in 2022. So I guess this was 2 years ago that matched into their residency programs, where this gray line is the percentage of medical students who are not from AMO who matched into their residency programs. And you can see it's about a 20% difference. It's huge, almost 1 in 5. So our students really have a leg up in the residency match process. And that's because they have US training experience, US letter of recommendation, certificate of completion. Typically, their English level is already better because they practiced in a clinical setting. So all of these really contribute to having a better application in matching into residency. So we have hundreds and hundreds of programs all around the country, all in the major areas typically. So California, Texas, Chicago, Florida. I'm in New York, so there's a ton of programs in New York that you can choose from. But we also have lots of small town, rural setting. If that's something you like, then we have options there too. These are some of our some of our partner universities internationally. We're partnered with more than 150 now universities all around the world in Asia, Europe, Latin America, the United States, really all over the world are now using our programs. And so I recommend now to you to create the account that we've all been talking about. I'll put it in the chat one more time, just in case other people joined late. Even while I'm talking, you can click on it and have another tab and just listen to my voice. You don't need to see me. You can go through the platform yourself and see what's available. I will not be offended. But really, I recommend now to you to create the account because, like I said, it takes time. You need to plan ahead. So right now it is March 27. So summer is in about 2 or 3 months. I really think you need to start today, maybe this weekend at the latest, if you really want to come for this summer. If you want to come for this fall or this winter, maybe you have a few more weeks of time. But really, I still recommend plan ahead. Give yourself the comforts and the luxury of time because I've seen it a lot of times. Students will think, oh, I don't want to come until June or July. Maybe I have some time to create my account. I'll do it next month. Just don't do it because then you'll be stressed finding the flight. You'll be stressed applying, stressed asking the advisors, stressed coming to the USA last minute. Just don't do that. Plan ahead. And this is first step number 1. So let me stop sharing my screen and I'll actually show you the platform itself. I'll show you a few features. So when you actually click the link, the AMO Mediconsulting link, this is what you'll see. When you sign in and create your account, this is what you'll see. It's really just like I said. It's like Airbnb or like Uber, but just for clinical rotations. So you can click into any program, you can see the price, see the details. This one looks nice, so I'll click it. Great, so you can see this program is in Miami. We have lots of programs in Miami, in Florida. It's physical medicine, rehabilitation, and you can see it's with a professor from Orlando College of Osteopathic Medicine. So it's with a professor. You'll get the university letterhead on your letter of recommendation. You can see what specialty it is, see all the details about what you'll be doing day to day, who this is for, the best students to do this, the requirements. So this one requires COVID-19, requires malpractice insurance. It's all available for you to see there. You can see exactly where it's at. Wow, lots of lakes. So you'll be in this very lakey neighborhood in Florida, and you can see the hours of operation there. So let's say, for example, this is a program I'm interested in. I really love Florida, always want to go there, maybe I have family there. I can click physician assistant, for example, if I'm a physician assistant student. And I want to start in September. And let's see, for example, you can see here, I know it's kind of small on your screen, but each of these is a different month that you can start. So this is September, November, October. And you can see that when it says seat 1, that basically that just means only one student can come here every month. So you'll be working one-on-one directly with the doctor. There's no other students in our program. And that's pretty typical. You'll see maybe one, maybe two seats. That's pretty common in the United States, where you'll be with one doctor and one other student. Maybe maximum you'll see 5 seats, but that's not so common. It's typically, one-on-one or maybe one-on-two with the doctor, so that you can have the best experience possible. So I can just select my type of student. I can select when I want to start and apply. And the application only takes maybe a day to be approved. Really, all we're looking for in that application is just checking that you're really, yes, a medical student, and that this is a program that fits your needs. So for example, sometimes we get a nursing student who will apply to a dentistry program on accident. So we're just kind of checking things like that to make sure that you can actually show up, and then you'll be approved. So you can see the prices. We require a 2 payment system. So if you like, you can just pay the full price up front, or if you'd like, you can pay a 50% deposit just to save your spot and start working with the coaches, and then you can pay the other 50% before you actually train. And it's also worth noting that these prices are set by the doctor. So here in America, almost all medicine is very privatized. I'm not sure how it is in Korea, but here the doctors will always typically set their own prices. So let's say, for example, there's also the research button. This is pretty important. So if you want to stand out in your application, maybe get some research experience, some publication possibility, then I recommend going to one of these research facilities. And we have had students who have been published with their professor on research before. So let's say, for example, I'm in New York, so I'm biased. I want to look at New York programs. I'll click the New York state. I can even click this button, show the map. So you can see this is New York State. And New York is a state, but it's also a city. So you can see that New York City is down here where all these programs are. So it looks like there's about 20 programs, maybe 30 programs. So let's click on a random one. So this is Manhattan. This is Central Park, the very famous park that I'm sure that you've seen it in maybe movies or TV. Let's see what this program is. Great, so this is family medicine. So it's a core rotation, meaning any student will need to have some sort of training in family medicine. And it's with a guest lecturer of St. Elizabeth University here in New York. And it looks like it's at a pretty big facility. So you can simply click, physician assistant again for this one, click June and apply. And it's really that simple. So this one's very near Central Park. It's in New York City. I'm sure it's a very exciting program. Let's see if there's any questions. Someone asks, is hands-on or is electives the same as hands-on clinical experience? So that's a good question. Elective basically means, it refers to the specialty. So if you're doing family medicine, internal medicine, emergency medicine, pediatrics, those are like the main specialties that every university will require. But if you want to do an elective specialty, that's where you can find here in medical specialties, you can find all of these different other ones. For example, dermatology. Dermatology is not a required specialty by most universities, but if you choose to, if you elect to, you can take one of these medical specialties in dermatology. That's a good question. While searching some IMG Reddits, I found these phrases which confused me. If not, I'm wondering what electives are. Perfect. So I think, yes, elective refers to medical specialty. Hands-on and observership refers to the amount of training you will get, the type of training that you will get. Good question. And I'm basically done with my demonstration. I'm done with the presentation. So I'm just here to answer questions for you now. If you want to leave, you can, but if you want to stay, ask some questions, I'll make sure it's recorded so that the people watching at home can hear your questions as well and learn from them also. Someone asks, is physician assistant the title for those students who applied for clerkship? No, Dongha, that's a good question. So maybe it's not so common in Korea, but in the United States, there's lots of medical students who will become doctors. There's also lots of physician assistant students who will become physician assistants. So they're not, they don't have an MD degree, but they work alongside those who have MD degrees to get physician assistant training here and work with our patients. So those ones that said physician assistant, those are for our physician assistant students. What you will need to do is make sure that it says medical student or hands-on or observership. Good question. Someone asks, do research programs also come in blocks of 4 weeks? I'm not sure if research assistants will be able to complete a decent amount of research in 1 month. Does AMO offer funding for research? Those are all good questions. So to answer your last question simply, no, AMO does not offer funding for the research, but we do offer you the option to gain research experience. And you're right. So research typically is a longer term thing. You probably can't make much meaningful research within only 1 week. So I recommend, if you really love research, you should probably do 3 or 4, even 6 months of research so that you can I don't want to say guarantee, but it's a much more high likelihood that you'll be published and that you'll be able to actually make something of your research programs. So yes, research is, typically longer. If you want to do only 1 month of research, that's perfectly okay. There's tons of students that do 1 month of research. It doesn't hurt your application at all if you only have 1 month of research. In fact, I think most residency directors that I know, even if it's just 1 month, I think they're happy to see just at least some research experience because it shows that you're excited about medicine. It shows that you're curious and you want to learn more. I think research is almost always good to have on your resume. Good question. Let's see. Does research course enable students to complete publishing in 4 weeks? Okay, basically the same question, but so there's no publishing guarantee at all, ever for these research programs. It kind of depends on what the doctor is, what they're studying, what the stage of research is when you join. So yes, we have lots of students who have been published in research programs before. Tons of them, maybe hundreds of them have been published, but it really just depends on the program itself and what they're studying. So maybe if you have this question, you really want to be published, I recommend doing a longer term research program and also being very careful about which is the research program you think is most likely to get published within just a few months. But like I said, it's not expected that you have a publication. Residency directors, they're not going to look at your application and expect that you have a publication. It's very, very rare for students. If you want to try, you can, but I almost really never heard a residency director say that they require or expect publication from a student because you're still a student and they understand that. They're there to help you. Someone asks, is there a menu where I could see honest reviews from students who have rotated at the institution? Yes, actually, that's a very good question. Let's see. Let me answer that question first. So yes, when you create your account, I know that there's a blog where you can see reviews. Let me show you real quick again. This might be helpful for some of you. So here on the main AMO website, if you click blog, this is just where we put information for students, resources and things like that. Here you can find tons of reviews from past students. And also on the actual programs themselves, let me find a popular program, one that probably has lots of reviews. Oh, our most popular program, actually, let me show you. Also, your English level is very good. I'm speaking natural native English level right now, and you all seem to understand me very well. So good job. But let me find this program for you. It's in Massachusetts. Here, this is our #1 most popular program. And you can clearly see why, because it's virtual, so you don't need to leave Korea. It's research program. It's all medical specialties. So it doesn't matter what your medical, specialty aspirations are, this is available to you. And it's with a program director. So it's not just a doctor, not just a professor. It's with the top doctor, top professor of Harvard University Plastic Reconstruction and Surgery Center. So this is a very, very, very popular program, very good. In fact, he just asked us to lower the price. So this is his new lower price so that he can help more students like you join his program. He'll teach you. Basically, this program is all about the basics and fundamentals of how to do research. And that's why it's very popular. And also you'll get the letter of recommendation from one of the top doctors at Harvard. So it's a very good option for you. And to answer your question about the reviews, you can see on the bottom of most of our programs, there's already reviews from past students. So maybe if it's a new program that we just brought on, maybe you won't see any reviews because there haven't been any students there. But for our very popular programs, like this one, of course, it's super popular. So it's almost always, just almost always all 5 stars for this because it's Harvard, it's research, it's very, very helpful to almost any student. So that's a good question. Let's see. Let me see if there's more questions. One sec. Someone asks, do most rotations in more academic settings cost more, or do they simply have requirements for students like step 1 pass? Also, what would you say are the pros and cons of rotations in academic settings versus community settings? Sure, that's actually a super, super intelligent question. So yes, we do offer lots of rotations in academic settings. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I click here, the academic affiliation button, basically that just means this is going to be with a doctor who works at a university. So sometimes you can see it's, in the actual university itself. Many times in the United States, it's at an outpatient clinic where the doctor is just affiliated with that university, meaning he's a professor, he's on payroll at the university, but he's teaching you at this clinic. So let's find, for example, a good one. And you can see, that the prices are typically not affected by having academic affiliations, unless it's maybe a very, very top school like Harvard, for example. Of course, every student will want to go there, so the doctors there will probably charge more for their time. But you can see that this one looks interesting. So University of Tampa, again in Florida, that's a very good school. You will get a letter of recommendation from a doctor. And on that letter of recommendation, it will say the clinic you went to, but it will also say University of Tampa professor. It'll have the logo. It'll have everything you need from University of Tampa also. Good question. And really, I think the benefit, I think if you're a medical student right now, I think it's always good to have that academic affiliation. Again, it's almost never required, especially in the United States, where I don't think any residency director is going to require that you have an academic affiliation, but it's probably a good option to have on your resume and make sure that your training is coming from an accredited university. If you want to go an outpatient clinic that doesn't have an academic affiliation, that's totally fine. You're going to be probably working with more patients. In fact, maybe even getting more hands-on experience in a setting like that because there's less bureaucratic systems, maybe there's more patients, and your clinical skills will probably be, maybe even better in some cases. So it really just depends on who you are and what your needs are and what you're looking to do in your career. But there's no right or wrong. Good question. Let's see. Oh, there's lots and lots of great questions coming in. I really enjoy to see it. Let's see. Does AMO have a specific refund policy, or is it determined by each clinic and hospital? That's a good question. So yes, there's one AMO refund policy that applies to all of the hospitals. And that's because when you think about it, these hospitals and these clinics, they enjoy working with us because we do all of the paperwork, we collect all the payments, we do all the student interactions. These doctors, they're very busy, right? They're seeing patients all the time. They don't have time to do webinars like this, for example, where we can explain this type of stuff. So they work with AMO to make their lives easier also. And part of that is we have one refund policy for all of our hospitals. And our refund policy is typically a 50% refund. So whatever you paid for the deposit, for example, if you decide to cancel for, whatever reason, we can give you 50% of that money back. But we must keep 50% of the money because we already started the student services section and we already held that spot for you, meaning there's maybe another student who wanted to do that clinic, but they couldn't do the rotation because you were holding it. So we have to keep 50% of the deposit. But if, for example, if it's a visa issue, then it's not your fault, it's no one's fault, then we will give you the 100% refund if it's a visa problem. But if it's not visa problem, 50% is typical. Good question. Do I need to pay the prices listed on the website, or are there additional brokerage fees to be paid to AMO? A good question again. All the prices you see are the actual prices themselves. And in fact, just for joining today, let me give you a discount code. Sorry, I will stop sharing my screen so I can find the discount code. And I will send it to you again in email also. But just for being here, I want to save you some time if I can. Let's see. And I want to make it a big discount code. So give me time to find the best discount code I can. Let's see. That's a good question. Thank you for bringing it up. Okay, I got it. So I'll put in the chat here for everyone to see. This code here, match 400, that will save you $400 US on any clinical rotation. And this is not, it's not a infinite discount code. It will stop after a certain time. So I recommend you use it within the next couple of weeks. And I'll send it again to email, make sure everyone has it. Let's see. Academic settings, the prices. What other costs do we need to consider other than the program fee? Does AMO also offer assistance in the actual stay and housing? Good question. So yes, you should consider other costs like housing, food, flight. A lot of it can be waived if you have a virtual experience, but if you have in-person experience, these are things you need to consider. And AMO does not actually provide the housing. We will help you find housing. Yes, of course, we'll give you Airbnb options. We'll give you homestay options. We have partnerships with lots of homestay networks. So let's say, for example, you booked a rotation in New York City. You have a certain budget, but you don't know where to stay. It can be difficult for you to access, American websites for some reason, just ask our coach. Our coach will help you find the best housing, the best flights within your budget. Good question. Someone asks, are there any restrictions on specialties one can participate in for virtual clerkship?
Yeah, it's hard.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question? Okay, if not, that's okay. Let's see. Any restrictions on specialties for virtual clerkships? I'm asking because it seems unlikely participation in hands-on for me. Yeah, there's no restrictions on specialty at all.
어,
So even if, for example, you really want to do radiology, but you apply to a dermatology rotation, we won't stop you. You can pick any specialty that you like. This is really your time to train and learn and explore new things. So really, we won't stop you, especially virtual. There's no reason at all. So go for any specialty you like, especially virtual. Good question. If I apply through AMO, is a clerkship guaranteed? Are there spots left listed on the website first come, first serve basis, or does AMO independently evaluate and select students? Okay, really good question. I think it should be very clear that everyone should understand this, that these spots that you see are available right now on a first come, first serve basis. So AMO will not, read your resume and, evaluate, are you good enough for this rotation? No, we won't do that. We won't check your grades, really. We won't do anything like that. We'll just check, are you a medical student? Are you failing medical school? If you're not failing, then we will allow you to pick any rotation that you like, first come, first serve basis, and all those spots that you see are available. So, for example, if there's one spot in a cardiology clinic in Arizona and you take that spot, we'll take it off the website so that other students won't apply to your same spot. Good question. So it's guaranteed placement. And that's also just a very good perk that I think lots of, traditional companies just didn't do for some reason. And I think it's much better to let the student have the option to decide your own future and your own education. Thank you for letting me know about your most popular programs. Does AMO have any pages which show other popular programs list? Let's see. That's actually a good question. I'm not 100% certain. If you have this question, though, you can always ask it to the advisors, and the advisors just know offhand, off the top of their head, which is the most popular. Let's see. Suggested programs, bundles. Oh, so suggested programs. This is an interesting button because it will use AI to determine maybe which are the programs that are right for you. Let's see. Did it work? Okay, maybe not working for me. Maybe it knows I'm not a doctor. Let's see. So you can also click this tags button here, which has different, attributes. So maybe if you really want to go to hospital, you can click here. Maybe if you want to come with your friend group, maybe 2 or 3 friends, you can click good for groups, research, residency site. Yeah, I guess there's no popular button, but I can always, I 100% certain if you ask your advisor, they will know the answer. This one's also actually very interesting. Residency site button. It's also right here, residency site. This one's important because if you want to do residency in the USA, it's very important that you look very good to the doctor on your application. Everything must look perfect. It's going to be very competitive for you to get into residency. But if, let's say, for example, you came here, University of Illinois Cardiology, Chicago looks like a very great residency program. I would love to do a residency program like this. If you already know the doctor, if you've already done a rotation, you've impressed them, they like your work, they like working with you, you come with a positive attitude every day, then, you know, when it comes to residency match time, they see 1,000 applications. Who do you think they're going to pick? The 999 students who have the perfect application, or you who also has a perfect application, but they already know you and they like working with you? It's much more likely that they would choose you in a situation like this. So I really recommend, if you want to do American residency, these are maybe some of the programs you should look at. And AMO has had lots of students who have done this. So they'll go to the residency site, they'll do maybe 3 or 4 rotations, they'll work really extra hard in these months to impress the doctor, and then the doctor's happy with their work and accepts them for residency. So that's happened a bunch of times, and I really recommend it if that sounds like you. Good questions. Good questions. Let's see. Wow, lots of questions. Let's see. Are there any difference between virtual research and virtual when I click like select type? Yes. So virtual research it's like it sounds. You'll be doing research at your computer. But for example, if you're doing family medicine virtual, for example, you won't be doing the research. You won't be looking at data most of the time. You'll probably be on a Zoom call with the doctor, with the patient. You can see what the doctor is doing. You can see what questions they're asking, take notes. They'll maybe even let you do a lot of these patient histories. So you won't be doing research in that case. Good question. AMO provides opportunities for Korean medical students and graduates to gain clinical experience. Yes, this is all true information. Should I submit every document needed at the time of making a reservation, or is it okay to hold the position first and then prepare additional documents later? Good question. So it's not required to have all your documents ready when you apply. In fact, I wouldn't do that. I would probably just apply to, you can apply to up to 10 at one time. So what I would do is probably apply to 2 or 3 programs that I'm considering. If you're a medical student in Korea, you will probably be accepted to all of them. From there, you can decide which one you actually want to reserve, and you can just pay the 50% deposit to whichever one you select. And then later you can submit the documents to your coach. In fact, the coach will probably reach out to you first. They'll probably say something like, congratulations, I saw that you reserved this program. Hello, I'm your AMO coach. Here's a list of documents that you need, and they'll work with you on that. Good question. Someone said, I heard it's difficult to be matched in some specialties for international medical graduates. Actually, I'm an anesthesiologist in Korea, and I want to be an anesthesiologist in America too. Is it helpful to be matched to this kind of specialty if I have an experience of observerships of the same specialty? Yeah, actually, I do know that you're correct that IMGs match into different specialties at different rates. So more typically, we see IMGs match into the core specialties, primary care, like internal medicine, family medicine, pediatrics. These are the main specialties that IMGs match into. And they also match into more rural settings easier rather than, big cities. It's not always the case. There are a few big cities that take lots of IMGs. For example, I know New Jersey loves to take IMGs, but it really just depends on the program to program, state to state, city to city. So there's no one correct answer. In fact, if you're an anesthesiologist, I am not the person to give advice on residency match about anesthesiology. I don't know the match rates. I don't know the match rates in different cities, but it's all available. The good news is that it's all available to you online. You can find it even for 2024, I think should be available soon if it's not available already. Good question. Are there any other questions? I think I got all the questions so far. Yeah, I think I got all of the questions. Let's see. So maybe I'll wait about 10, 20, 30 seconds if there's any more. We are over time. This already lasted more than an hour. I really didn't think it would, but you have all such good questions that I really want to give you my time and make sure that you have everything you need. Is this Zoom seminar will be posted online for reviewing? The Zoom seminar will be sent to you an email. I will record this. As soon as Zoom tells me that the recording is ready, I will send you all an email saying, thank you, here's the recording, here's the discount code, here's the link to sign up, here's the advisor's number if you want to talk to them, everything you need. Could I recommend some anesthesiology rotations? Yeah, so you can simply click here, find anesthesiology. I don't think there's a ton. Oh, in residency site. Oh, I have multiple filters. Let's see. There's probably, I'm guessing, maybe 5. Oh, there's 10 different anesthesiology programs. So yeah, I think there's only 10. You can click the button, find which is best for you. You might want to consider which city you're going to, which type of clinic you're going to, things like that.